of JN1 variant of the virus. And now let us begin with the headlines. Delhi Health Minister Pankaj Singh holds meet with hospital officials to review COVID preparedness and oxygen availability. Police arrest man behind Instagram account Bangalore Metro Clicks. In a landmark ruling, Supreme Court refuses to sentence a POSCO convict, saying the legal process hurt the victim more than the incident. Delhi High Court reserves order on Turkish firm Celebi's plea against revocation of security clearance. Prime Minister Modi to visit Kanpur on 30th of May, likely to meet Pahalgam attack victim Shubham Dwivedi's family. India to ask World Bank and FATF to stop funding Pakistan, tells IMF that Islamabad is using its funds to purchase weapons. Tamanna Bhatia's appointment as Mysore Sandal Soap ambassador sparks row. Protest erupts over non-Kannada actor chosen for brand closely tied to the state's heritage. And Trump warns Apple CEO Tim Cook again, says build iPhones in US or face 25% tariff. Trouble is brewing in India's neighborhood again. Will Bangladesh witness another violent regime change after the ouster of Sheikh Hasina? People are losing patience with the interim government led by Muhammad Yunus, once thought to be a liberal, but turned out to be a bigoted face of the Bangladeshi establishment. The free and the fair election that Yunus promised are nowhere on horizon. Thousands of Bangladesh Nationalist Party supporters marched in Dhaka on Thursday demanding an election date. In a meeting with his Council of Advisors, Chief Advisor Yunus reportedly expressed his desire to quit. So what's going on in Bangladesh? Let's decode this on point. Thousands of people marched in Dhaka demanding a firm election date. This was the first big protest against Yunus administration. This is a point to be noted because mobs had taken control of Bangladesh. Main political parties were sidelined. 2 months after announcing elections, interim government says it isn't in a position to hold election by December 2025, and the point to be noted is the only job of this interim government was to hold elections and nothing else. Army Chief Waqar-uz-Zama wants Bangladesh polls this year. Pressure is mounting on Yunus government to hold early elections because that's the job of the interim government. Instead of holding parleys on foreign policy, trying to create corridors, but this was the most fundamental job, and the word is transition. And that's what Yunus did not do. Yunus met his advisors, his Council of Advisors on Thursday. A frustrated Yunus wanted to quit but was persuaded otherwise. A feud is growing between army and government on proposed corridor between Chittagong and Myanmar Rakhine province. General Zama is dead against the corridor proposal. He says Rohingya hub Rakhine is a security threat, but Yunus, under the pressure from the radicals, is not looking into it. In October 2024, the interim government announced that the election may be delayed until early 2026 to allow for reforms, prompting resistance from BNP. Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus has emerged as an anti-India figure since coming to the helm of affairs. And the fact of the matter is that this was not the image of Yunus 10 years ago. He has done things which clearly puts him in this bracket. It's not a figment of imagination. Yunus said that the China could gain logistical access to India's 7 northeastern states through Bangladeshi territory, and that too in Beijing. He has actually revived ties with Pakistan since the exit of Sheikh Hasina, I would say made them more dense and close. He has repeatedly made provocative statements about and against India. He tacitly backs the idea of seizing Indian territory in the northeast in the event of a regional conflict. He called for integrated economic plan for the 7 system states of Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan and India. His government has been silent on attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina called Yunus the mastermind behind mass killings in the country. Under him, Bangladesh has been encouraging jihadists. He appointed Hizb ut-Tahrir terrorist administrator for Dhaka North City Cooperation. He has the backing of pro-Pakistan Jamaat-e-Islam. A Pakistan merchant vessel docked in Bangladesh for the first time in 5 years, 5 decades under Yunus. 5 decades. India has imposed curbs on goods from Bangladesh destined for northeast. What else should we do? ISI officials have been visiting Bangladesh under Yunus. How can India expose Islamabad-Dhaka axis is the issue. Yunus says the attacks on Hindus are not communal. How do we bust this rhetoric? And is another coup imminent in Bangladesh? And let me straight away go to Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee. And I'm also joined by Suhas Chakma, Director, Rights and Risk Analysis Group. Thank you both of you for joining me. Good evening, madam. My first question to you is it correct to say that there is now a rift between Yunus and the army?
Definitely. The army chief has said that there must be elections by December, and he is absolutely correct, because this interim government has no legitimacy beyond 6 months, and it is much more than 6 months. And if he wants to have it in June, it would be 2 years that he would be in power. It would therefore appear that Muhammad Yunus is very comfortably establishing himself as a non-elected ruler of Bangladesh with council advisors who are also non-elected, and who in a free and fair election would never get elected, because most of them are from the Jamaat, which has never won elections in Bangladesh. The second important point is that the army chief has correctly pointed out that this Rakhine, so-called Rakhine corridor, humanitarian corridor, is against Bangladesh's core security interests. He is absolutely correct. This is being done under, Yunus is being pressured to do so because the Rakhine corridor, which this proposal which had come up and which he had fully supported, under strong pressure from the army chief and others, the BNP also did not support it. His advisor has now said they are going to consider it. In other words, earlier he had approved it, now he's considering it. But the question here arises is, who is propping up Yunus? Is it the American deep state on one hand and China on the other? And in the case of the Rakhine corridor, clearly there would be very sinister forces at work, because the Rakhine corridor would also be against India's core security interests. And finally, I would say that Muhammad Yunus clearly has outlived his popularity. People have understood that this is not the same Muhammad Yunus of Grameen Bank fame, whom I also knew many years ago. This Muhammad Yunus has become a comfortable, established Islamic bigot, and his advisors are Islamic bigots or jihadists, and he knows that in a free and fair election, he is going to be ousted, and therefore he is trying, like all bigots, to postpone it as far as possible. I don't think that's possible. So either he steps down gracefully, otherwise there are several options, as you rightly pointed out. He could be ousted peacefully, he could be ousted violently, he could be put under house arrest, or he may do what he should do, which is he should go back to the country which propped him up. Actually, it was the Clintons who propped him up. They are no longer in power, but he can always take a flight and go back to Washington, D.C., which is where he belongs. And he also has, I may add, an American passport, which is very odd. How can a man with an American passport be the interim or otherwise advisor of any country? In Bangladesh, he does not have a Bangladeshi passport, I'm told.
This brings me to the question. Thank you, madam. This brings me to the question, Suhas, then who is calling the shots? I mean to say, if Yunus is feeling the pressure, Who is pressurizing Yunus? There are layers of political development which people in India are not aware of. The layers of the the Bangladeshi politics. Who are the people? We think politics in context of institutions, but when we execute the politics, it's the individuals who matter. Can you take us through, Suhas, who are the individuals who are making that difference in current political scenario?
The key person is the National Security Advisor and High Representative Khalilur Rahman, who himself is an American citizen. And it's really surprising to see an American citizen being head of the national security, or being the equivalent of
so
the national
basically,
security
Ambassador
advisor.
Mukherjee said one American citizen is Yunus, who you say is
Yes.
a bigot and an Islamic radical. And the second American citizen you have just spoken about is Khalilur Rahman. So you are saying
Yes.
that 2 Americans are running Bangladesh.
Absolutely. There are 2 Americans who are running Bangladesh, and what Yunus is trying to do is he thought that if he expresses his frustration that he cannot carry out the reforms which he doesn't have the mandate to do, because carrying out reforms, I always say, will require enactment of the laws, holding of the parliamentary elections, having a parliament, etc. So he thought if he expresses his frustration, and people in the streets will come out. People in the streets are not going to come out. And I think the plan of Yunus has been to declare himself as the president of Bangladesh when the July declaration comes up, by actually July this year, so which is barely a month or 2 months away. For a long time, students have been trying to adopt this consensus document to bring the July declaration. And his plan is actually to declare himself as the president and throw out the current president, and thereafter sack General Walker as the army chief. So General Walker, by speaking out in public, he basically preempted the coup which Yunus is trying. We have to understand here is that it's the person who is actually going to do coup d'etat. It's Yunus himself, because superannuation of Walker will take quite some time. So they don't have that time because people are running out of patience. So I think it's a game between Yunus and Walker, and it's absolutely possible that he would try to dislodge the army chief. So army chief is actually watching, or has to watch over his soldiers, and being a brother-in-law of the former prime minister doesn't help. It's very, very difficult. So I think he is in the tightest situation, and it could go out in any manner. It basically means 2 things. I think Bangladesh is going to face massive internal violence between different factions of the political parties, because Awami League is there, BNP is there, and both the main political parties are being denied the opportunity. And second aspect of it is, whatever the outcome, because there has to be an outcome where a political party like the Awami League has to be accommodated. You cannot ban the political party which has brought independence to the country. So there is a huge section of people. So it's an unfinished revolution in that sense, because the revolution, all you say is for accommodating everybody, and you ban the political party. And if that happens, and I was saying from the beginning, Dr. Yunus and many of the advisors, they are involved in massive corruptions, and they will end up in prisons themselves, because Awami League leaders are facing prosecution. There will be a next government which shall not be run by them, and they will be the one who will be facing prosecution.
Okay. I am also joined by Ambassador Humayun Kabir, former Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh. Thank you so much, sir. Am I audible to you, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Well, thank you. Go ahead,
if I'm audible to you, sir, my question to you is Muhammad Yunus going to step down, sir?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Yes, there was a discussion in the cabinet. He expressed his intention, but then his cabinet colleagues and today the BNP and other parties indicated that they don't want him to leave. They want him to complete the agenda that he has taken on to himself for the democratic transition of the country.
Ambassador Kami, why did he choose to express his desire? That's the question. Why would he say that I would like to quit?
Well, this government, as has been put out by the advisor even today, this government took onto itself 3 agendas. One is the justice, against the crimes committed, then doing the reforms for a sustainable democratic structure, and then holding the elections. So they think that they have three agenda which they are now pursuing. So what Professor Yunus has mentioned himself, and which came out in the newspaper, that they have a feeling that they are not being allowed now, or they cannot do their job because of the agitations and demands from different segments of political parties and also civil society and other professional groups. So that's why I think that may have been one of the reasons which may have some may have created that environment where Professor Yunus got irritated, and he perhaps thought that if he's not allowed to do his work, then it is better to leave.
But isn't this ironic, sir, that Professor Yunus himself is the product of this agitation, and say, as you said, that the agitation is not allowing him to do his job? Then I mean to say, he has not met the expectation. And the only thing, if you recall, the first day after the change took place, when you joined my show, you said the job of the interim government is to hold elections.
Oh well,
Hold elections. I remember that conversation with you, sir. You said, Kartike, that's the fundamental job of the interim government. They will come here, they will hold the elections, people have spoken. So everything has happened, but they have not held elections. In fact, they have delayed it.
No, they have not delayed. Let me correct the scenario that you are trying to lay out. Number one issue here is we had a bad experience of malgovernance or bad governance during the last, say, 15 years, or I would say that there has been instances earlier as well. So election alone cannot solve this problem. There is a widespread recognition in Bangladesh that election could be one of the factors or steps that can help transition to a sustainable democratic process or governance. So what this government is saying, and there is, I think the people also believe that there has to be some reform in the governance structure, and fundamental reforms are required here. So this government is trying to do that, and then if the elections are held, elections will produce a meaningful governance structure, and which could be also reflective of the will of the people and serve their interests. So that's where the issue is. So one is not against the other, or one is not really agitating against the other. Both are linked, and now depending on this, and I think whatever I have, if I have heard Professor Yunus rightly, he said that reforms will facilitate elections. So elections would take place, and he has given himself the time frame from December to June next year. He said it very clearly at an international press. So my feeling is that BNP is now demanding that elections should be held in December. And Professor Yunus is saying in between December and June. And my feeling is that if they sit down together, all the political parties with the government, it is possible that a kind of date convenient to both sides could be worked out. So I don't believe that election issue is something that is rocking the boat. It is possible to find a common ground.
Tested then this issue of the corridor, the Rohingya corridor, which is being opposed by General Zama.
Yeah, no, I think not only General Zaman, I think the people, there is a great degree of confusion about what the government is trying to do with that. Even if I assume that the idea is benign and really positive, but that has to be explained to the people well. And unfortunately, the various actors in the government have not been able to really explain why this should be done and how it should be done and why it is necessary now. And that may have, the General Wakarul Zaman mentioned about that, because unless the army as a security unit, they must also be integrated into that process. Perhaps, absolutely, I think some gap there, and that's why he has expressed his mind quite forcefully, I should say. And in a way, that reflects general mood in the country as well.
I think Ambassador Mukherjee wanted to come in. Madam.
Wanted to respectfully bring to the attention of Ambassador Humayun Kabir, whom I think I've met once, that there is a dialectical contradiction in what he has just stated. Because this interim regime constitutionally cannot last more than 6 months, and it was brought in only to organize free and fair elections. As far as the reforms that Ambassador Humayun Kabir is referring to, they may be required, I don't deny them, but they can be only brought about by an elected parliament with parliamentary representatives. An interim regime, which has no mandate from the people, which is not an elected government, cannot bring about electoral reform in any democracy, and Bangladesh is supposed to be a democracy. That's my first problem. Secondly, it would appear to me that Muhammad Yunus and his, I would call it coterie, but you can call it group of advisors, seem to be hell-bent on postponing elections until they can give legitimacy to this group of hotheads consisting of jihadis and supporters of the Jamaat, whom they think that over a period of time can win elections. That ignores the fact that Jamaat has never been able to win free and fair elections. And when free and fair elections are held, at the present moment, BNP would win the election. And if there is a parliament that is constituted, that parliament should then examine why there has been malgovernance in Bangladesh over the years, as pointed out by Ambassador Kabir, and look into that and see whether such reforms can be brought about. Otherwise, I fear that you could have any of these scenarios which have been outlined. You could have a military coup, you could have a violent agitation, but certainly you could be in a position where an interim government does not function under an interim head who has an American passport, that's Muhammad Yunus, and his national security advisor who has an American passport, which means that the great state of Bangladesh, and my parents come from East Bengal, is currently being run by 2 American citizens, as if it is not possible to find 2 respectable Bengali Bangladeshis who can run the government. And if that is the situation, then the sooner the elections are held, the better. That is what I would respectfully put to my colleague, Ambassador Humayun Kabir. Thank you.
Ambassador Kabir, I think that's a very a powerful point. And Madam, I'll come back to you about the Bengali identity. The first time you also came to my show, you spoke about it. I had written it. Will Bengali identity endure? That will be my last question of the show to you, Madam. Ambassador Kabir.
Well, 3 things with due regard to my colleague, esteemed colleague, Ambassador Mukherjee. There are 3 experiences of caretaker government or interim government in Bangladesh. Under the constitutional amendment which was adopted in 1996, the caretaker government was supposed to stay for 3 months to only hold the election. Then we had a second experiment we had in 2007, where the caretaker government continued for 2 years. And now this is a new experiment that we are doing, which we call interim government. And there is interim government has set a time frame for itself up to June of 2026, assuming that by that time the elections would take place and a new government would come into place. Number 1. Number 2 is, I think, I'm not very sure what Ambassador Mukherjee has mentioned about the citizenship of both Professor Yunus and Dr. Khalil, who is a national security advisor. Khalil and myself, we work together in the ministry, we are contemporaries, but well, that I am not very sure, so I cannot make any comment, but I believe both of them are patriots, very much Bengali, by identity, and they love their country. And the last point I should say, what she's talking about, government trying to take time to create a facilitating environment for a particular group of people or a political party. I think that's not the right, I would say, characterization of the scenario. I think Bangladesh people are quite intelligent. We know what we have to do. We have done our liberation war. We have fought against authoritarian regimes. So we know what we should do. So I would not prejudge the wisdom of the people. Let us wait and see what people decide during the next elections.
So you are saying that we should not prejudge the wisdom of the people, but the political parties are not in the play. For example, I think Ambassador Mukherjee, I think she corrected me. She said there is a difference between Bangladeshi experience and the Sri Lankan experience. In Sri Lankan experience, she said that the basic structure was restored. You know, the political structure was restored. In Bangladesh, it has not been restored. I'll come to you. Yes, I'll come to you. In Bangladesh, it has not been restored. Your political parties are not in play. There are people at play, but the institutions are not in play, which have been created over a period of time.
Oh, you are asking me?
Yes, Ambassador Kabir.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with Ambassador fully that our experiences are different. Sri Lanka has always maintained a kind of continuity in their governance structure. If you look at the history of Sri Lanka, but we had interruptions and we innovate. Bangladesh is quite innovative in that from that point of view. So we innovate, we adjust, we restructure depending on the need of the country. So I think what we have been doing, we had our hiccups, we had our bad experiences, but the one thing that came out very clearly was that the people of Bangladesh is wedded, very strongly wedded to the principle of democracy, and they are, as you know, one of the strengths of Bangladesh is the people. So people, the rulers, those who have been elected, if I may say so, within inverted comma, they have betrayed the country, but the people have not betrayed. They have kept the country together, and even today, I would say that that's why I defer to the the people's desire. So I think that we have not followed the structure always, but we have innovated new structure to address the new challenges. And I'm sure this time also we'll be able to, we means the people of this country will be able to innovate something that would serve the needs of the future generation.
Suhas, you wanted to comment?
No, I just wanted to say that I think Dr. Yunus is trying to put the horse before the cart. The fact remains, even if the consensus are agreed on the reforms will require legislative, reforms. It will require a parliament which will adopt all this reform. Otherwise, what will happen is whatever they agree, except the format of the election, you need to hold, sessions in a parliament. Without legal reforms, you cannot enact many of these things unless you bring some ordinance and etc. That's, I think, one part. The second part, I think, where the people are concerned about, is that the interim government is not functioning as an interim government. It is functioning as a regular government. And that is something which the BNP has made it absolutely clear. And that is what the army chief has made it very clear, that there are certain issues on which, the elected government of the day should take the decisions. And I think the fact that the foreign secretary has just resigned yesterday makes it more intriguing in that sense. And I think the last point which I would like to say is that I think there were dissensions, disagreement, and of course there is no dispute. The regime of Sheikh Hasina was repressive. It was authoritarian. People wanted to replace that authoritarian system. But whether people actually wanted to ban a political party with 40% of the electoral support or 30% is something which is to be decided. Now, when you ban a particular political party, what you basically have created is the same system which people had rejected and had overthrown. So if we look at the entire situation in Bangladesh at this point of time, you basically have, Sheikh Hasina being replaced by, Muhammad Yunus. Actually, many of the things, except possibly the extrajudicial executions, which derive an except those, if you look at the entire governance structure, if you look at the human rights institution, if you look at the rule of law, everything has collapsed. Under Hasina, you could not get justice. But today, if you belong to Awami League, a judge, of the Supreme Court cannot give a justice because he is fearful of his own life. And that's the one of the reason why, you have people like Chinmay Prabhu still in jail. He has been given bail, but he has been, implicated in other cases. So rule of law has completely collapsed. And in the entire system, what is happening is, whenever there is a small protest or big protest, whether it's for 5,000 people or 50,000 people, the government actually succumbs to it. So it did not take a longer protest or so much of a big protest to ban a political party like the Awami League. I think it required a serious discussion. And for a long time, BNP opposed it. And now BNP is saying, okay, we will go by it, we will welcome it. So that's what I think we have to understand. I think people in Bangladesh had fought for democracy. They shall fight for democracy. I think in the process, what they got is basically
process. And this government has not said anything on this point, or they have not contradicted that. What we are trying to do, just to clarify, the government are talking about having an agreement about the reforms, the potential reforms which would be integrated in the constitution down the line through signing a charter, meaning that they are pre-committing themselves once the reform process is over, that they will follow up on those reforms once the elections are held, and then they form the government. So that is where I think one new element that has to be understood, that the government, what the government is trying, or the political parties are also discussing, is to create or get a pre-commitment from the political actors that this reform process would be carried over whenever they come to power. This government, interim government, will try to as much as they can do. The second point is, Foreign Secretary has gone on leave. He has not resigned. He has gone on leave, and perhaps he will be posted out somewhere, depending on the situation. And the last point I should say is that Professor Yunus's government, or this interim government, by definition is a short-term government. So this government, I mean, we can blame this government, but this government essentially is a stopgap arrangement. They are trying to address a situation which was chaos, basically, as you have mentioned at the beginning. So the legacy of that chaos we can see still vibrating, and this government is trying to somehow manage it. When there is an elected government, when they come over, reflecting the public opinion or public people's desire, then that government we could call and think that this government could be a normal government and they can take the responsibility.
Okay.
I
Very
wanted
quickly,
to actually ask a question to Ambassador Kabir, if you would allow.
please.
It's about the Bengali identity which you were referring to. That the whole issue when Bangladesh was created, it began when there was an effort to stop Bengali being in the curriculum and to impose Urdu. That's how the language movement started. My parents come from Dhaka, Bikrampur. I have a long lineage from East Bengal. When Bangladesh was created, it abolished the myth that religion is more important than language, culture and civilization. The Bengali language, the Bengali music, the theatre, everything that makes us Bengali. The fish, the cuisine, the theatre, everything. Now in that mixture, eclectic mixture, there was no religion to complicate it. But today, Ambassador Kabir, you have to accept that there have been massive killing of Hindus, that Durga Pujas have virtually disappeared, that the Baul singers, that the Sufi shrines have been attacked, which means, with great sorrow I have to say, as a person who's written about the Bengal partition, that the syncretic culture of our beloved Bengal, whether it's your part of Bengal or my part of Bengal, in your part of Bengal, which is called Bangladesh, it is being destroyed. And that, how much responsibility does this interim non-elected government have? I would hold Muhammad Yunus responsible for not condemning and not stopping the killing of Hindus, the killing of Buddhists, the arbitrary arrests, the killing of Christians, the destruction of Sufi shrines. And this is something which has never happened ever since the creation of Bangladesh. So that I'm sure, whether you want to say it on national television or not, I can well understand you have to live there, so you don't have to answer my question. But I would tell you that just as a foreign secretary does not go on leave, you and I are professional diplomats. A foreign secretary goes on leave when he is forced to go on leave. Okay, let's understand that. But so you don't comment on that. But on the rest, I hope in your heart of hearts you would accept that the destruction of Bangladesh's syncretic culture is a tragedy to those who thought that Bangladesh actually represented the triumph of culture, religion, civilization, language over religion. That's what I always thought. But now I'm having serious doubts about it. Thank you.
Kabir, I think I'll take the closing comment from you.
Can
Because the closing, yes, absolutely. The closing question came from Madam. The closing answer has to be from you.
Okay. Welcome to my colleague, esteemed colleague, Ambassador Mukherjee, to come and visit Bangladesh. I can assure her that the syncretic character of Bangladesh has not changed. I mean, we have to understand that we had to go through a huge political hiccup, and I myself still am moving around the country, and I can tell you that it's very much syncretic culture is vibrant, thriving, and what we have two identities always, like you have, same many. We have a Bengali identity, and we have also the Muslim or Hindu identity. I mean, because of our history. So both are there. At one point, some identity may get little bit of more preference, but not without paying the due respect to the other identity. You mentioned about Durga Puja. This time in Bangladesh, ever, we had the largest number of puja pandals this year. So I can assure you that if you have any lingering fear that Bangladesh is changing, the minorities are being oppressed, I would invite you to come. I will take you to different places to see for yourself how your paternal or ancestral Bangladesh you can find out again.
On this note, I would like to thank all of you, and I really hope that the way Bangladesh has been described remains the same, which is triumph of culture, language over other identities. And as you said, that one identity should not find a bigger place at the cost of the other identity. I think that's where the play is. I think both Bengali identity and the religious identity should be on the equal footing, and that's what makes the Bangla identity unique, which, as Ambassador Mukherjee said, that it crosses the border, which is the Bengali identity. Thank you all of you for joining me, but this was on point one. Please don't go away, because in the on point two we look at the return of COVID-19 and how worried should we be with the spread of the JN1 variant of the virus. The mask has returned. We are talking about the comeback of the COVID-19 pandemic to the continent. The surge began with the cases in Singapore, Hong Kong and China. But in the past few days, cases have seen an uptick in India as well. Kerala, Mumbai, Karnataka have witnessed a sudden spike in cases in last 24 hours. The Andhra Pradesh government has issued guidelines for citizens to stay safe from the deadly virus. Delhi Health Minister Pankaj Singh met with hospital officials to review preparedness and oxygen availability. As per the Ministry of Health, the total number of active cases in India is 257. Now let us look at the big numbers. 257 active cases in the country. Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra record the highest daily case. Fresh case in Odisha. Kerala has 95 active cases, Tamil Nadu 66, Maharashtra 56. The Andhra Pradesh government has issued guidelines for the citizens to stay safe from the deadly virus. The sudden uptick in the COVID-19 case is being attributed to the two rapidly spreading subvariants, OF.7 and NB.1.8, both offshoots of the JN.1 lineage, itself a descendant of the highly transmissible, if you recall, the Omicron, the third stage of the pandemic. The WHO has designated JN1 as the variant of interest due to the global spread, though it is not currently classified as variant of concern. Its descendants OF.7, NB 1.8 are now under international scrutiny for their heightened transmission potential. So the questions are, how worried should we be about JN1? How deadly is the virus compared to previous variants? Which are the precautions to keep in mind for the common people? Is our health infrastructure ready for COVID-19 this time? Is it back to the routine of mask and work from home and social distancing? I'm joined by Dr. Navneet Sood, Associate Director, Department of Pulmonary, Dharamshila Narayana Super Speciality Hospital. And I'm also joined by Dr. Ishwar Gilada, Communicable Disease Expert and Secretary General, People's Health Organization, Mumbai. Dr. Sood, first to you, and then I'll go to Dr. Ishwar. Dr. Sood, how worried should we be?
I think
Dr. Sood, and then I'll go to Dr. Ishwar. Dr. Sood.
yeah, I think we have just started seeing some cases of this new variant. I suppose worry is a abstract word at the moment. I think precaution is the word, and specifically, I'll take a little time to tell you who is the vulnerable group. So, what I'll tell you is that it is not at the moment. It has not found to be very fatal. It is very infectious. It is almost similar to in the spread of the disease as well as in the morbidity and mortality is almost similar to the Omicron wave which we last encountered. So what we are sure to know is that the vulnerable groups like the immunocompromised persons, the diabetics, the cancer patients, the heart-lung patients need to be much more careful. For the rest of the population, I think general measures should be sufficient enough, like hand washing and simple masks should do and not going to crowded places. Well, at the moment, does not seem likely to be a very fatal sort of variant. But let's see how it pans out from here. At the moment, even from my Mumbai colleague will be better able